the stadium erupts in red, white and blue. You've never seen anything like it.
Let's go.
Manchester, brace yourself. Rangers are coming!
Hi everyone and welcome to the next episode, the very, very much delayed episode of the iReady podcast. As ever, I'm your host Derek. With me is my co-host Dave. Dave, it's been nearly a month, hasn't it?
It has been, Derek, but life sometimes gets in the road of even our podcast. But we are glad to be back, and we have got a hell of a lot to talk about, haven't we?
Absolutely, plenty have to talk about. 8 games, don't worry, we're not going to go into them in great depth. Obviously the transfers in and out as well as some news. But the feeling right now is pretty positive, which is unusual for us, Dave, isn't it?
It's incredible. No, we'll probably talk about it later on. Where the team is now compared to where it was when Danny Rule came in is quite incredible, Derek. And there are still, unfortunately, a lot of our fans are complaining when they're watching the team play, and which I find absolutely incredible because it has been a remarkable turnaround, and for us to be right up there challenging along with Hearts and Celtic, was unthinkable a couple of months back. So, no, I'm right up for it.
Yes, so without further ado, we'll go down the tunnel and onto the park. So before we even get to the park, Dave, we have got a bunch of transfers to talk about because the window opened and we've got to say it slammed shut. And I've got to say, pretty positive, I would have said. I mean, the one thing I will say is what we've seen over the past number of years is that we've signed players that are just okay. Very few standout players, and when you sign just okay players, you see them having fleeting glimpses of brilliance and then okay performances. And when these okay players have an off day, they have woeful performances. And when you get okay players playing with other okay players, you generally get just okay performances, basically.
Yep.
So nobody inspires each other around them if that's the case. We need players of quality that show that quality more often than not, that show you brilliance, and then when they have an off day, their performances don't drop below that okay level, and then it means that there's others there that are brilliant players that provide the brilliance for you. So a bit of a tongue twister, that one, but that in a nutshell is the way I see our transfer window for going back for a number of years, Dave. I don't know about what you think.
Yeah, no, 100%, especially in recent years, even going back, there has been very, very few times, especially the January window, where we have struck gold with more than maybe one or two at the very most. But certainly the new owners are back to manager hugely, and as you're about to get into, it certainly looks, by what we've seen so far, that we've signed some very good players in this window.
Yes, so the first one here is Toche Chukwueze, 22-year-old Danish midfielder from Sturm Graz on a 3.5-year deal. Tur Romans, a 22-year-old left-sided fullback from Westerlo on a 3.5-year deal. Andreas Skov Olsen, 26-year-old right-sided Danish winger from Wolfsburg. He's on loan until the end of the season with an option to buy. Reports that we've paid around £2 million loan fee and a decent 7-figure sum to buy him in the end. He's been capped 40 times as well for Denmark, so just something about Danish wingers, Dave. And to round out the transfer window for incomings, Ryan Nadiri, 22-year-old striker from Hansa Rostock. The deal was agreed to sign him for the summer, but we wanted him now, so we paid a few extra million for him. I fully agree with that, because I maintain that not signing a striker in the January window when we got to the Europa League final is the reason why we never won that final. Not for the specific player we would have maybe brought in, but because we had to rely on the same two strikers who ended up injured for the final, and we ended up having to play that game with 0 recognised strikers. So having that rotation there might have helped us that way, but now we've got the striker in, and the guy is some unit, and he's obviously off the mark as well with 2 goals at the weekend, which we'll get into. But interesting so far, Dave.
I know it's only been a few games, and I think me and you messaging each other, you were, try not and get carried away. But Skov Olsen should be the absolute standout. You know, you've said he's a Danish international, played at a huge level. We've been interested in this guy before. There's been talks before and it fell down. He's finally here. He's got the pedigree going into the game for yesterday. You could finally see the guy looks really, really class. It's maybe taking a couple of games for him to get used to it. But the other players already look as if they've settled into the team. Chuck Whanney is an absolute unit in midfield. He's a giant, a guy, but looks very good technically, exceptionally strong. Nadiri, again, even although he was playing in the lower leagues in Germany, it shows you that Danny Rule has got his finger on the pulse. He has got his contacts all over. It was him. He was told to have a look at this guy, not to miss out on him. He's obviously went all in to try and get him here as soon as possible. It's happened, as you say, already off the mark. And for what I've seen of two Romans, I think this guy's going to be excellent. And I'm trying not to get carried away, Derek, but I am certainly very impressed so far with all of these guys that we've brought in.
Yep. And outgoings, we had Kieran Dowell going out. That's on a permanent deal to Hull City. And ironically, he scored in his last game as well, did he not? So Joe Rothwell out to Sheffield United on a permanent deal. That is, considering how well he played for Leeds before we signed him, it just never worked out. And that's a classic case of every player is a risk. One of the ones I'm really disappointed in is Lyle Cameron. He's went on loan to Aberdeen for the rest of the season. Aberdeen fans' reaction to this, though, has been absolutely hilarious. They find it shocking that they never got a loan to option to buy, and they weren't wanting them to develop a player for the Huns, as they said it was. They even held up a banner on his first game saying, "No old firm loans." I mean, they're sitting in the bottom six just now. They're playing absolutely garbage. They're managerless. Cameron could make a massive difference to them.
And has.
Yeah, but they would much rather be shite than get a player from us. Add in the fact that they, in the game we're just going to cover, that they had a go at Miovski for obviously playing with us now. A player they held as a deity in their squad. A player that came to us from another club. It's not as if he directly transferred like Wright did or Ryan Jack did. I mean, they even threw missiles at our players when celebrating a goal and our subs warming up. Aberdeen were a minor inconvenience about 40 years ago for 5 years, when at a time they had a manager who would go on to be the best manager of all time. They are not our rivals. They are insignificant. Why they keep thinking that they are rivals to us, I do not know, Dave.
And interesting as well, Derek, no old firm loans, but I seem to think that when they had Ryan Christie back on loan from Celtic, that the fans were quite happy with his performances and what happened, and wished him all the best when he left for a second time as well. So it's nothing to do with the old firm, Derek. It's purely because of us. And Lyle Cameron has already came in and made a massive difference to their team. And I think if that continues, you'll find that things will change if they actually start to win games, and he's a direct impact on that. So yeah, just ridiculous.
Yes, I'd be remiss of me not to say about Cameron, because I think he was a prospect, and I know he was signed by a manager who left pretty much straight away when he came in, but you know, it's disappointing for him because he got a big move to a club that he apparently liked. So yeah, it just never worked out. Hopefully he can come back and prove himself, but it looks as if Danny Rule didn't fancy him. That's just sometimes that these can happen.
Yeah.
The one player though that I am so disappointed in is the fact that Finlay Curtis has went out on loan to Killie for the rest of the season. We don't have a lot of creativity or direct players in our team just now, and he was that outlet. We'll get into the Hibs game where that was exactly what we were crying out for, but granted, I understand that he wasn't getting his game, there was other players ahead of him, but he was offering something completely different to players that are not doing it, or at the time certainly weren't doing it. So hopefully he'll get his game time there. You know, I don't think the Billy Dodds and Neil McCann are going to do wrong by him, because I think they even highlighted when they were at Rangers that he was a standout player. So let's see what happens there. Hopefully he comes back. He's still contracted to us. There's no option to buy at all. Hopefully he'll come back and get a good run out in our team.
100%. And, you know, 99% of Rangers fans think exactly the same as you, Derek. It was one player we would definitely have kept. It's one player. He's a difference maker. And I'm sure that he will come back, just as long as he gets his game time, because he is a special player. Very, very good. So here's hoping that Rangers have done right by him and for his growth to get him back and be like a first team player again.
Yeah. Next one, Clinton in Seattle. He's went on loan to Westerlo for the rest of the season with an option to buy, so just never worked out for him. And the last one here, really strange because Danilo is away to NEC Nijmegen. I have no idea how to pronounce that. But he's on loan for the rest of the season with an option to buy. It was mentioned in the tabloids as a possible move. It was never confirmed by them. It was confirmed on the Rangers Twitter, but never on the official site. So, a bit of a strange one that there. It never worked out for him. There is certainly a player there, but he was plagued with injury, and it's just, you can never keep him fit enough, and we've had too many of these players over the years. So
yep.
best for
100%, yep.
Best for everybody involved.
Yeah, definitely.
The only other thing here in terms of players is apparently that we had a loan with an option to buy for Gassama bid booted out, which would have been a good return from what we paid for him, as well as booting an apparent bid out for Chermiti. I'd have bit your hand off for both the deals, to be honest. However, it shows that the owners are not all about profit, and they clearly understand the bigger things can come if it comes good. So Gassama, certainly is a really good prospect. He's shown it in fleeting glimpses. You get a good run of him, he'll be getting sold for even more than what we got offered. So we're in no hurry to sell all of these players who are on long-term deals, but I think we've been bit before with that kind of thing, so we'll need to wait and see.
Yeah, I think it shows you that Danny Rule values having the squad of players that he's got and not just to try and get rid of them. I think they're both of the age that we know that if they are successful this season for us, maybe even next season, that there could be an even bigger return on both players. But like you, there's quite a few of us were shocked with the money that was being mentioned that we didn't sell. But, we have to just keep faith in the manager and his decisions, don't we?
Yep. In terms of staff, we announced that Jim Gillespie will become the new CEO. He's currently the vice chairman of St Mirren. He's the current CEO of the Kibble charity as well. He initially ruled himself out before Patrick Stewart was appointed, but that's when we were an absolute bin fire off the field and things were still in the air with the takeover. Completely different prospect now when things have pretty much settled. It leads back to comments that Kavanagh has said, now I'm paraphrasing here, that we were needing a Scottish identity and people who know the game up here rather than trying to basically just template what's happened in the English leagues as well. Jim Gillespie will start later in the season. It will take a wee bit of time before the fruits of his labour, but again, one of these things we'll need to wait and see in due course. We just hope that he's going to be a wee bit more vocal than Patrick Stewart was.
The sensible option, will we say, Derek, with all the turmoil that's went round, the guy that knows the lay of the land, he knows how it works, especially here in Scotland. So, as you say, it's all of these things are sort of wait and see what happens. But again, it shows the sort of different direction that the owners of the club are going, and I think they're wanting more stability, and I think they can see that stability could possibly be sort of more domestic influence in the way that the teams run. So, yep. We just have to hope it goes as planned.
Yep. Now, we only talk about Celtic in the context when it relates to us. Celtic fans, on the other hand, talk about us. We call them out for talking about us. And then they turn around and say, see, you were talking about Celtic there. I mean, bizarre behaviour, but that's them for you. However, amazingly, Celtic made inquiries to Leeds about their striker, Joel Pirro, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yep.
And they basically got laughed at because of the 49ers connection between us and Leeds. Even their own fans couldn't believe that Celtic had done that. I mean, what were they honestly thinking, Dave? Just brilliant.
Another player, Derek, who I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd ended up at Rangers on loan just because of the connections as well. But yeah, absolutely bizarre. And for them even think that there was a possibility there. But again, there's conspiracies there with their own fans saying, is this them saying that they had the money there to go in for players on loan, knowing that it was going to get turned down, if you know what I mean. So I think there's a hell of a lot going on behind the scenes at Celtic that their fans don't like talking about that, and it's not going to plan for them. But again, I don't like speaking about them unless they're directly linked with us or something to do with us, just like what you said. But it was an absolutely bizarre one, that.
Yeah. So kind of to round out the transfer window here, we've kind of said that the season could arguably be defined by the recruitment in January for all three teams involved. Every player's a risk, and it doesn't really matter how much money you've spent, but I think we've proven that time and time again. We've got the players in the positions that we needed strengthened, and that is the big difference for me. Every player was designed to be brought in for that particular position. Like I said, though, we still, I think, need a bit of creativity. Hearts have added 5 players. I've no idea. They seem to be getting gems from absolutely nowhere of late. Celtic, on the other hand, they've had largely a scattergun approach to the transfer window. And that's they've spent zero, as you've said. They've spent zero money. It's all been loan signings, despite them bleating about having £70 million plus in the bank. Like I've said before, for them not to spend big money, they're either saving it for court cases or they've got somebody cooking the books and they actually really don't have the £70 million in the bank. They've also went out and done the usual when fans are turning against them, so they go out and get a big name past it player. Obviously with loaning Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Clearly on his day, an absolute huge talent, but he's been without a club for 6 months. He hasn't played in 9 months and he was constantly injured throughout his career. No doubt Epstein's pal will be paying his wages as well because he'll be on a hefty chunk. So we'll wait and see how that one turns out, but I think I'm quite happy with our transfer window and where we've spent and the positions we've got. As I said, a wee bit more creativity, but with the new signings, once they get bedded in properly, they might be that creative spark, or it might prompt others to get their arse in gear as well and start getting forward.
100%. I am now looking at other players now to step up. Now that there is major competition for every single position in that team, guys like Ant-Man, who again has, I think has stepped up, could also look like a brand new player for us. So I think everything is looking really, really positive, Derek, and I'm looking forward to the games that are coming up.
Yes, so now that we've finished that, we will now go down into the tunnel and into the park. One thing I want to say, Dave, is there's 8 games we've got to cover. We've scored 24 goals and only conceded 5 of the 8 games. That's incredible. Yeah.
Any manager coming in, if you had given a stat to any manager coming in to say that's what's going to happen in the coming months of the game, nobody would have believed it, because that's incredible stats. Absolutely incredible.
Granted, 13 goals came in 2 games, but that's for a team that doesn't score a lot this season, then that is great. But the first game we've got to cover is Sunday the 11th of January. It was a 2-0 win away against Aberdeen in the Premiership. We pretty much controlled the game, Dave. We're not going to get into the starting 11s of the games. We're just going to really cover the goals and any controversial moments or talking points of the games. But it was a pretty comfortable win in the end, and that's obviously coming off the back of a 2-0 win the previous game against Aberdeen at Ibrox as well. So the double header against Aberdeen, 4 goals, 0 conceded. Really happy.
Yep, it was. And that was despite probably one of our best players of the season, certainly since Danny Rule coming in, Connor Barron, being injured for this game, playing against his old club. But as you say, it was all Rangers, especially in the first half, and we did take the lead on the 23rd minute, and it was a corner in from the left. Magoma shot to Tav again to Goma, who whips in a fantastic ball, and there's Asgard, who runs in from the back post. It was straight off the training ground, right off the back post to just in front of the penalty spot to fire the ball past the goalkeeper. And I'm his biggest critic, Derek, but I must say he took that goal absolutely fantastic, and it was straight off the training ground and exactly what we deserved, 1-0 to Rangers.
Yes, delighted with that.
And from there, you said it briefly a wee while ago, Rangers were celebrating. It looked as if Fernandes was struck by an object thrown for the Aberdeen end. Wasn't much said about that at all. There was all sorts happening, but it stayed at that. But then at the 28th minute, it really should have been 2-0, Derek, and I know you want to speak about this one, but I still don't know why this goal was ruled out, because Rangers get the ball into the Aberdeen box, and there's Fernandes. The goalkeeper comes out with Fernandes. He's right on top of Fernandes. He's got his arms over the top of Fernandes, but Fernandes out-jumps him, and you know the size of him. He out jumps the goalkeeper, heads it right over the top of him into the back of the net. It was a clear goal to me, Derek. Absolute clear goal. We were all celebrating. It goes to VAR. VAR don't say it is a goal or it's not. They want an on-field review by the referee, and the referee chops it off because he says that, or apparently, Fernandes has his arm raised. Now, both me and you have spoke about this. He's trying to get height when he's jumping with the ball, so obviously his hand is going to come up. It didn't look as if his hand was on top of the goalkeeper, pushing the goalkeeper down. If anything, the goalkeeper was fouling him. And it looked as if the goalkeeper made a complete backside of it as well. It was a clear goal, but the referee chopped it off. But did you see any reason for that goal to be chopped off?
No, because this is the thing, and it goes down to keepers getting protection, and it seems to be that any contact, or the rule is apparently any contact with a keeper, then the keeper gets benefited out, but we know that that's wrong because you don't always see it. But in this instance, Fernandes was jumping alone, and it was the keeper that actually came out to him. Now, he wasn't using his arms to hit the keeper, he was using it as leverage, as you do when you jump, and the keeper actually came out to meet Fernandes. So for me, there's no way that should have been ruled out, but this is just one of the number of inconsistencies with Scottish referees and the usage of VAR and everything this season when it comes to officials, because that is an absolute nonsense decision, and this is what rips my knitting, and you've seen it in so many games that we'll get into it later on, and when we come to the cup game, is that Celtic seem to think that we don't get decisions against us, but always for us. No, this is a clear indication that, no, this was a completely unjustified chopping off of a goal.
It was baffling, to say the least. But, as I say, we went in at half-time, winning 1-0, comfortable. We'd had quite a few shots in goal, nothing that had really tested their goalkeeper, apart from, obviously, the goal that was scored by Asgard. So, into the second half, Mikey Moore was coming into a game. He ran into the box and shot a tight angle. But then on the 72nd minute, it was a penalty to Rangers. And it was Gassama on the byline in the box, turns his man, Aberdeen player, goes in. It's a clumsy one. Gassama knew it was happening, Derek, but he still took Gassama's leg first as far as I saw, and the referee had no option but to award the penalty. It was clever play by Gassama because he knew the player was coming in, but there was contact, he was brought down. It went to VAR, they confirmed it, so it was a penalty to Rangers.
A clear penalty, can't argue about it at all.
Yep, 74th minute, James Tavernier steps up, slots it low past the Aberdeen keeper into the back of the net to make it 2-0 to Rangers. And that is how the game ended out after that, Derek. As you had said right at the start, it was a very comfortable game for us to win, especially up in Aberdeen, which has been difficult for us over the years. It didn't seem like that when we were playing at the time, because it never does. But looking back on the replays and the highlights, it was a very comfortable and excellent victory for Rangers away at Aberdeen.
Yes. Just a bit of controversy at the end of the game as well. When walking up the tunnel, there was a video of Raskin spraying water over an Aberdeen fan when he was hanging over the tunnel. Of course, big bad Raskin, big bad Rangers. He should get jailed and all that nonsense. Police apparently took a complaint about it. Sky Sports were even a disgrace as well, slamming Raskin for it, including Chris Boyd, by the way. Then when the full video came out, it showed that the Aberdeen fan was given Raskin abuse as he was walking up the tunnel, then threw liquid over Raskin first. So Raskin obviously retaliated. I mean, that was a grown man and acting like that, and then he started turning around and going, "Oh, that's shocking. Yeah, I got scooshed by him." What annoys me more is the usual suspects always had it as big bad Rangers before seeing the full evidence there. But Chris Boyd should have known better, and that's the difference between Rangers-minded pundits and Celtic-minded pundits. They all toe the party line, ours don't. And further to that, another one of their idiot fans was caught mocking the Ibrox disaster again. Absolutely brain dead. And this is the thing. Aberdeen fans think they're rivals. They're not. They're an inconvenience. That's it.
100%, mate. 100%. As you say, when the full video came out, you could quite clearly see the guy throwing some sort of liquid over Raskin. So he's obviously just went and grabbed the water or whatever it was to throw it back on him. But as you say, big bad Rangers, and it was only the second incident that was caught at the time. So nothing has came of it, which is the way it should be. But the portrayal of Rangers, it doesn't surprise me anymore, Derek. It really doesn't.
No. Next game we've got to cover, Friday the 16th of January. It was a 5-0 home win against Annan in the Scottish Cup, round 4. I know we're only going to talk about the starting lineups, but Zebedee Lawson made his debut. I just love that name, Dave. I really do.
Yep.
And what's really annoying as well is Danny Rule wanted to give 2 highly rated 15-year-olds a game. However, he was prevented from doing so due to SFA rules that they had to be 16 or over. I mean, come on, if they're good enough, they're old enough.
I wasn't quite sure what the rulings are, and it certainly would have been quite a day for both of them and for the club if he felt so confident to give these 2 guys a game or at least be on the bench. But again, the one thing I will say is it shows you finally that we must have some fantastic players coming through if that was the case.
But Dave, we played pretty well. It was a standard affair, as you would expect for playing against Annan.
It certainly was. The big news just before kick-off, we brought out 2 of our newest signing, being Tur Romans and Tochi Chukwani, and then they also paraded and announced the signing of Andres Skov-Olsen on loan from Wolfsburg, as you got into. So he was out on the pitch as well. So that was a big lift for the fans at the time. So getting into the game here, I'm just going to summarise the goals. 12 minutes, we opened the scoring. The ball played to the edge of the box. It falls for Danilo, who gets a touch to Kieran Dowell. Thankfully, it falls to the feet of Majowski. He takes a touch and strikes it past the goalkeeper into the back of the net. 32 minutes after that, we made it 2-0. Good play by Kasama on the left into the centre of the pitch. A ball to Kieran Dowell. Good first-time ball to Finlay Curtis on the byline. He dinks a great ball to the back post. Perfect ball for Majowski to head into the back of the net and make it 2-0 to Rangers. At half-time, though, that's how it finished. Having most of the ball, we were pummeling them at the last 15. Finlay Curtis, a constant threat, as we spoke about before. And we only had to wait 3 minutes into the second half to score the third goal. And it was a corner on the left from Rothwell. Mentioning them all, Derek, Danilo, Rothwell, Dowell, they were all playing in this game. Short to Gassama, back to Rothwell. He dinks the ball into the box. And there's Kieran Dowell, of all, with a great header, you've got to say, lobs it over the goalkeeper and bounces into the back of the net to score his first goal for Rangers since 2023. Plenty subs after that, and then on the 73rd minute, it was a penalty to Rangers. Another forgotten man, Rabbi Matondo, he had been brought down in the box. It was as clear as day, a penalty. Majowski, he steps up and fires it past the goalkeeper for his hat-trick, and 4-0 to Rangers. And then to round off the scoring for Rangers on the 86th minute, it was a free kick to Rangers after Moore was brought down outside the box, quite a distance outside the box. And again, Derek, I'm highly critical of him, but Asgard steps up and scores one of the best free kicks I've seen in a long, long time. It was, as I say, from quite far out. It wasn't just outside the box, but he hit an absolute thunderbolt with curl and accuracy right into the top left-hand corner. No goalkeeper in the world was saving that. It was an absolute outstanding goal and a great way for us to round off the scoring, making it 5-0 to Rangers. Great for Majowski scoring the hat-trick, but as I say, that free kick topped the lot for me.
Yeah, stunning free kick. Majowski hat-trick, you thought you were going to kick on from there. So, yeah, got to be happy with that, tempered with the fact that it was Annan we were playing. And that said, I think as well that they started off the first 10 minutes the better team. We scored against a run of play. They were better again and we scored again. So sometimes that's the way it works. However, being that the Scottish Cup round 4, we were drawn against Stranraer or Queens Park in the 5th round. Stranraer would go on to win that game, so we would have been playing Stranraer, or so we thought. They would get kicked out for fielding an illegible player. It was a very, very strange one, and if I get this right, the original fixture between Stranraer and Queen's Park was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch, which turns out that the game could have been played and it wasn't as bad as they were made out. In that time, their keeper who was on loan got recalled. That meant they didn't have a keeper. So the rules state that you've got to name a keeper, an actual keeper in your starting lineup. They then loaned a keeper who went on to save a penalty in the game. And he was put down as a loan and not an emergency loan. Now, the rules apparently state that only players registered for the original date can play in the event of postponements, abandonments or replay. So basically, it was an admin error and not registering him as an emergency loan. However, it begs the question, if only players registered for the original date can play, then why the fuck was a Scottish Cup final allowed to be played 6 months after its original date with different players and one of the teams were in a fucking lower league? They've outdone themselves with that one, Dave. I was thinking about that when I was doing the notes here, but I'm obviously talking about the Scottish Cup during COVID, which was delayed 6 months.
Yep.
That is the key point here. Different players from the original postponement date. Why was that allowed to go ahead, Dave? Still rankles me to this day.
Unbelievable, but these things won't be spoken about, Derek. That's the thing. We all know that it was there to help a certain club, a complete and utter farce, and as you say, something that still riles a lot of us just now, even although it was a few years ago.
Yep. Not that I'm bitter, Dave, or anything. So, Dave, that leads us into the next game, which was Thursday, the 22nd of January. It was a 1-0 home win against Ludogorets in Game 7 of the Europa League. Finally, Dave, we get a win under our belt on Game 7.
Yep, finally, as you say, we got a win. For games over the past few seasons that we would have seen as being quite routine victories for us in Europe, it's not been like that for us this season. But delighted that we did get the win and we didn't finish with very, very few points in the Europa League. Doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but with it being at home, we did want to get the victory. And the goal did come for us on the 34th minute, and it was a corner, short one from Magoma to Asgard, back to Magoma. He fires the ball into the box. Chermiti with a great deft touch from Asgard. He lays the ball in front of Mohamed Diomande and he fires it low past the goalkeeper. I thought it was a bit of a sort of goalmouth scramble, but when you actually see it, it was a tremendous sort of touch again by Asgard for a guy who give criticism, Derek. I've given him 3 really positive pieces of play over the last few games, but it was a great deft touch by him right in front of Diomande and he fired it low past the goalkeeper. But it was a pretty evenly matched first half, I've got to say. Rangers just edging the possession from Ludogorets, but certainly we weren't cruising by any chance and it could have went either way. But into the second half, it kind of went back and forward. Fernandes, I thought, was excellent in defence for us. And eventually the game did finish. And that's how it stayed. Delighted that we managed to get a victory. But like I said before, in the grand scheme of things, really didn't mean much.
No, I mean, it was a good hard-fought win. Get the coefficient points, know that they meant much, which we'll get into shortly. And obviously as well, get the money in and a good confidence booster as well for the team because we're on a good run at that point.
Yep.
Into the next game, Sunday the 25th of January, it was a 3-0 home win against Dundee in the Premiership. So the kick-off for this game was delayed as VAR appeared to be not working. Clancy did speak to the managers, he spoke to the captains, zero communication with the fans, so we had no idea what was happening, if it was working or not, and that was us on TV, so God knows what the fans in the stadium were thinking at that point. However, in the 12th minute, we had the ball in the back of the net after a short corner was played about, crossed into the back, and someone headed it in. It might have been Chuck Ioane, it might have been an OG, I'm not too sure. Chuck Ioane definitely strayed offside, however he wasn't interfering as the defender was in front of him. I've seen replays and it's not conclusive. There was no complaints from any of our players, so it must have been Chuck Ioane though that had kind of hit it in. It's just funny that VAR came back up at that point just when we had scored a goal as well.
Yeah.
So the rest of the half though, it was a bit stuffy, we were creating chances but not making their keeper work at all really. Into the second half, it didn't take us long because on the 46th minute, those three words you love to hear, penalty to Rangers. It was nice build-up after a great fast-paced start. Olsen on the right, crossed on the deck, Asgard with a backheel flick into the path of Raskin, who shoots, puts it over the bar, but just as he shoots, the defender slides in and takes him out. Penalty was given by the ref, VAR check confirms it. The player was already on a yellow card, so it should have been a second yellow card as well. So this is the thing that people don't understand, is they were saying that should never have been given as a penalty because he got his shot off. No, that's not how it works. It's just that referees don't actually discharge that law a lot of the time when it's in the box. And two, that should have been a second yellow card for the player, and they should have been sent off. So anyway, up steps Tavernier on the 48th minute to make it 1-0. Into the left side, the keeper guesses the right way and gets a hand to it, but it was just too powerful. That's Tavernier's 9th of the season and his 100th league goal for Rangers. Incredible starts. So delighted with the early start. We started off on fire as well, and then we just kind of sat back again. It's almost that the game had been done. All it taken is one mistake, and that's it, all the work undone. We left it late because on the 91st minute, Danilo had just came on 10 minutes beforehand. Danilo made it 2-0. The Dundee player on the left tries to switch it on the deck by passing back, plays it right to Danilo, who was 25 yards out. He took it forward to the edge of the box and shoots into the bottom right-hand corner. Great goal, and thank you for the bad attempted pass back as well.
Yeah, no, it was to be fair, Derek, it was an excellent finish by Danilo. I think he maybe knew at that point that it could be his last goal for Rangers. I don't know, but certainly an excellent finish and quite far out as well. So really, really accurate for him there.
Yep. And to round out the scoring, 3 minutes later, on the 94th minute, Gassama makes it 3-0. Raskin dinks the ball to Gassama on the left side at the edge of the box. He cuts inside, takes past two players and shoots into the bottom right corner. That is the Gassama we all want to see. It was great from Raskin. Yeah. What a ball. But that is the type of play we want to see from Gassama week in, week out. But sadly, we see it every other game, to be honest, and we don't even get goals out of it. So happy with the 3 goals in the end, but we left it late and we should have been killing teams off a lot sooner than that.
Yeah, definitely. It was Gassama like the Gassama we had right at the start of the season, Derek. But as you say, we're only seeing fleeting parts of his play like that, and we want to see a lot more and a lot more consistent.
Obviously, our spirits were high still of the continued run of winning games. However, that was all put to an end on Thursday the 29th of January, where it was a 3-1 loss away against Porto in the last game of the Europa League. We started off so well as well, because we went 1-0 up on the 6th minute, completely against run of play. Porto tried to play it out from the back on the right hand side. Tavernier was aware and robbed the ball, passed it forward to Curtis, a great cross into the back post, and Gassama was unmarked. The keeper comes but retreats, and Gassama heads it down and into the net. Fantastic start, Dave.
It was brilliant and a great move, Derek. The ball for Finlay Curtis was absolutely tremendous. I've never seen Gassama head a ball before, but it was absolutely fantastic. Great goal. And as you say, it was against the run of play, but getting a break like that at the start of a game, certainly before when we played in Europe, used to be the sort of start of something that we could build on, but unfortunately it wasn't to be.
Yep. However, it was undone on the 27th minute because Porto drew level. It was a drive and run through the middle, slid into the right-hand side, worked the ball through, passed to the middle, a bit scrappy, hits off the player, falls right to another attacker who shoots in at the back of the net. It was just one of these goals, not really anybody to blame. It was just a bit of a mess all round. Not the worst goal we've conceded, to be honest, but it was just scrappy all round. However, when you're talking about one of the worst goals, on the 36th minute, this was one of the worst goals we've conceded in some time, and it made it Porto 2, Rangers 1. It was a complete shambles between Butland and Tavernier. It was a long ball over the top, Tavernier with the attacker. Tavernier kind of touches the ball, slides in, and I think he tripped over his own foot or tripped over the turf or something like that. Butland tries to come out and he slid in. The ball flicked off Butland, right into the path of the attacker, who managed to tap it in. Just an absolute calamity of errors once again.
Yeah, it was, and unfortunately it's no an isolated incident with Jack Butland being a bit of a calamity, but that just looked even worse. The fact that the two of them collided with each other, the sort of ball bounced up off of sort of both of them. I thought it was actually easier for Butland to pick the ball up, but the two of them just made a complete hash of it, and unfortunately it fell right for their player and made it exceptionally easy for them. It was a complete calamity. Keystone Cops type defender, which we all hate to see.
And to round out Porto's scoring, they made it 3-1 on the 41st minute. It was a corner from the right, Fernandes with a great header, but unfortunately he put it into the wrong net. I'm not going to blame him for that. It's one of these things that can happen. Had it been a game that was maybe more important, I would have been cursing him, but given the fact that it was a dead rubber game, then it was one of these things. The second half was played, a couple of changes were made. It was a bit of a non-event. Porto, I think, they knew the game was done. They were into the top 8 at that point. Bearing in mind, this was amazing because Porto were sitting, when they started the game, they were on the cusp of going into the top 8. We went a goal up and they were way down the rankings, and then they came back and I think they finished 5th, I think, in the league as well. So just the way it works out. But the second half was poor, non-event of a game. Never really many chances for either team. Both teams quite happy to see it as it were. So yeah, disappointing end to it, but it was the more difficult of the Europa campaigns. We knew that was going to be, but this campaign in Europa League this year has just been a shambles, Dave, hadn't it been? And we all said it was favourable, but if we had a better manager, if Danny Rule had started the season, we wouldn't have been in this position.
100%, Derek. It's been an absolute disaster, but I'm solely putting that down to the blame of our previous manager and no one else. It's certainly a European season to forget.
Yeah. Just in terms of it being a dead rubber, talking about the coefficient, I think there was about 3 or 4 teams, including us, that could get automatic Champions League qualification next year if they win the respective leagues. The long and short of it now is that we need to win the league and hope that Olympiacos don't win theirs, as they done the impossible and won their last 2 games in the Champions League as well. So they've got more coefficient points than we got. Also in this game as well, there was issues with the fans leaving the stadium, again with poor planning by the opposition club officials and overzealous policing again. Rangers have obviously contacted UEFA in relation to this, but when's it going to end? Our fans getting treated like shit every single time, and it's just purely down to bad planning and policing.
It's been like that for years and years, Derek. We've heard people that we know that go to European games, and I'm talking going back to games in Spain and things like that. It's been exactly the same. The way the away fans are treated is unbelievable. I've always hoped that things would change, but going by what I read with some of the accounts for the fans over there, it was just as bad as it's ever been.
Yep. So that was a damp game to end our good run on, and the next game wasn't any better because on Sunday the 1st of February we drew 0 each away against Hibs in the Premiership. Really nothing to talk about in this game. There was no chances really of any note. We had a few chances at the keeper, we had a few chances wide, likewise with them. It was a non-event of a game, and like I said, it was about creativity. There was just a lack of it. Absolutely nobody willing to bust a gut and get forward. Nobody willing to try something different. All the balls were the same. We were just playing the same backwards, sideways, trying to get it forward, recycle, passing once again. There was a chance towards the end of the game where Barami got down the right-hand side and he'd crossed a ball in to absolutely nobody. Now, there was a still frame of it. Barami got himself into a good position to cross the ball in, but there was absolutely nobody there, no strikers there. Chermiti wasn't even there, and people were going mad at Chermiti about this one here, and I was like, right, that's obviously an issue. Chermiti should be busting a gut to get into that middle of the box there, but as well, see if we had a better player, then Barami would have looked up, held the ball up, and then tried to make sure that there was somebody in the box rather than just hitting a hit and hope cross in. So it's both, as far as I'm concerned, both the creative issues and both the striking issues with the team.
The thing that gets me about Barami, Derek, is, again, a player who I think is a really, really good creative player, but he never ever seems to play in the position that he was brought in for, and that's to play behind the strikers. It always seems to be, up until that game, Asgard, he had a very, very poor game in this match, and as you say, it was just a complete non-event going forward for us for the entire game. We were looking for a wee spark from someone and got absolutely nothing. It was really, really poor. I was trying to maybe put it down to being a European hangover, even though the game didn't mean anything to us. It was still, going a tough game, but it was just going from how we had been playing in the league up to that point, just really, really disappointing going forward, and we got all we deserved in that match.
Yep. So obviously we were back into third place at that point as well, I think. And again, there was always going to be this overreaction. We all knew there was going to be points dropped from everybody in the league in this run in here. And it just so happens that we were the first to blink and everybody's doom and gloom. But then we've seen the next week, which we'll get into, is, you know, the Hearts played Celtic and they drew, which was the ideal result for us. And it's going to be like that for the rest of the season. And we've got a couple of games coming up, which we'll get into as well. However, the next game, Wednesday the 4th of February, it was a 5-1 win at home against Kilmarnock in the Premiership. Dave, take it away.
Yep, fantastic. Straight away, Derek, 4 minutes into the game, our first main attack of the match, Moore with an absolutely tremendous through ball to Gassama. He's bursting right into the box. He's about to shoot. He's taken out completely by the Killie defender. Clear foul, penalty to Rangers. Andy was the last man, and it was a goal-scoring opportunity, so he was sent off for that one. How did you feel about that decision, Derek?
100% a penalty, 100% a red card, because it wasn't the last man issue. It was the fact that it was a clear goal-scoring opportunity, and he never made an attempt to play for the ball. I don't think he meant it, to be honest. I think it was just clumsy, and I think he actually was stumbling, but he's still taking the player out when he was well inside the box and about to pull the trigger. So, yeah, penalty and red card for me every day of the week.
Yep, and on the 5th minute, James Tavernier steps up and does what James Tavernier does and blasts it past the Kilmarnock goalkeeper into the left-hand side of the net to make it 1-0 to Rangers. But then, you know, we had a few chances. Killie even been down to 10 men. They had a glorious chance to score. I don't know how he actually missed it. Our defence completely caught napping. That was in the 16th minute, so really lucky there that it still stayed 1-0 to Rangers. But that's how it went to half-time, and I think the team were going back to the way that they were playing against Hibs. Derek, it was very laboured at this stage. We had plenty of the ball but really doing nothing, but maybe in their head that Kilmarnock were down to 10 men and it was 1-0 already, but we really needed to up the tempo in the second half. And to be fair to Danny Rule, he made a few tactical changes. You could see our fullbacks were getting pushed in slightly further forward, and that completely changed the game, especially in the second half for us. We scored the second goal on the 58th minute, and it was Majowski and Diomande in the edge of the box. They played a 1-2. Majowski, because he wasn't getting much service in the box, he was trying to get on the ball. Thankfully, he did here, because he gets the ball in the edge of the box and hits a fantastic low shot past the goalkeeper to make it 2-0 to Rangers. And then on the 75th minute, we scored again, and it was Romans coming on. He came on as a sub to make his debut for Rangers. He was on the overlap with Moore. He cuts the ball back. It's cleared back to Moore. He passes it to Skov Olsen, who looks up, and he dinks it right into the top left-hand corner for his first goal to Rangers. Fantastic. 3-0 at that stage. But then, out of absolutely nothing, Kilmarnock scored, and it was just a complete disaster. We were speaking about Jack Butland making mistakes, Derek. I don't know what was going through his head here at all. Was it just being ultra relaxed? The ball had been played from right back. I can't remember who it was that passed it to him, right across the 6-yard box. He goes to look up to see who's available, completely misjudges the ball coming to him. It rolls right over his foot, right to the Kilmarnock striker, who fires it into the back of the net. Just another absolute disaster. A goal that we conceded there, something that could easily have been fired upfield. I don't know what he was thinking, but we shouldn't be doing that, should we?
It's inexcusable, it really is. I mean, this is the problem with Butland. He can be so good, and he's a great shot stopper, but he's got a few frailties about diving to his near post as well, and this was just a lack of concentration, not keeping his eye on the ball. Fortunately, we were 3 goals to the good at that point. I would have hate to see it in an Old Firm game, or I would have hate to see it in a game where we're only 1-0 up. It would have been a disaster.
Yep. But it was a night for some of our new players. Nadiri had came on as a sub to make his debut. Scove Olsen at this stage, him and Mikey Moore, very impressive. Nadiri really should have scored in the 88th minute. Scove Olsen had the chance to score, but he left it for Nadiri. He shot just past the post. But a minute to go in regulation time, the 89th minute, it was a goal to Rangers to make it 4-1. And it was Moore down the left. He sees Romans bursting into the box. Romans to the byline, cuts it back to Ant-Man, who shoots and fires it into the opposite side of the goalkeeper, into the back of the net to make it 4-1. Derek, I'm delighted about that one because we've been waiting to see Ant-Man come on to a game, and I just have a wee feeling that goal really could set him on the way because he played well in the next game as well. But that wasn't the end of the scoring because 3 minutes in injury time, the most deserving goal of the night, and it was Mikey Moore who scored. Mikey Moore, outstanding in the second half. Kilmarnock could not get near the boy. He was tremendous. It started with Ant-Man on the left wing. He gets to the byline, cuts it back to Mikey Moore, and he fires it past the goalkeeper to make it 5-1. Tremendous goal. An excellent scoreline, Derek, you've got to say, and a much, much improved second half with Mikey Moore deservingly getting man of the match, in my opinion.
Yep, fantastic in the end. Obviously, though, they've got to note that it was a very, very poor performance in the first half. There was boos at half-time as well, which Danny Rule commented on the fact that he couldn't understand it. You know, I don't like seeing the boos, or hearing the boos, rather. I can understand it. I'm disappointed it happened at the same time. Like you kind of said, we're lapsing into that same play we had against Hibs, but more worryingly, we lapsed back into the same play we were seeing at the start of the season. Just nonsense football, and that was what was so disappointing. So I can understand the boos from that point of view, but if it served to get a reaction from the players, we certainly got that. So yeah. Obviously in this game as well, when it was only 1-0, there was a bit of controversy as well because Tavernier who was already on a booking. There was footage of him in a tangle with a player going in on goal. It was probably about 40 yards from goal, mind you, but he was in on goal. The ball got played well over the top of him. He was never getting the ball if there wasn't a collision. Neil McCann did mention it on his post-match that he wasn't too happy about it, but it seems to be that the Celtic fans were more unhappy about this than any Kilmarnock fan I've seen. Ultimately, they don't understand that it's a contact sport. Every challenge is not a foul. Every foul doesn't mean it's a yellow card. They didn't know what they were wanting in this case. They were wanting a straight red card because it was a clear goal scoring opportunity. No, the ball was well away from him, so I don't think he was getting the ball anyway. 2, they were wanting a yellow card. Well, it needs to be a foul to get a yellow card in the first place. So I really don't understand what they were talking about. Now, they were on the end of a couple of controversial decisions as well, where they could have had a penalty for a push that started outside of the box and then continued in. They also had a kick that Kieran Tierney got a kick in the face. Now, in terms of the kick in the face, that I've seen it given, I've not seen it given, but they seem to think that, the Yang one at Tynecastle last season, that was justification. Well, no, they're quite happy for it not to be a kick in the head when Trusty done it deliberately to our keeper. They're quite happy not to get a penalty which is borderline on the box when it was more out than in an Old Firm game last season as well. They're so two-faced when it comes to this. They want everything their own way. So this is what it really frustrates me about them, Dave, because they can't see the fairness in things. They just want everything their own way, don't they?
But it's always been the same, Derek. Always. It's always cheated, never defeated with them. It's this constant victim mentality that they've got, that they're always the ones that are being hard done to, even although they've won 14 out of 50 league titles. It's absolutely incredible, but it'll never change, Derek. It will never, ever change. They have that mentality about them, and I'm really not surprised that they're still bleating on about things that are complete and utter fallacy. Yeah. It's incredible.
Absolutely. However, the last game we've got to cover is Sunday the 8th of February. It was an 8-0 home win against Queens Park in the Scottish Cup Round 5. Breathtaking, Dave. I know it was. I know the opposite level of opposition we're talking about here. They are sitting 10th in the Championship just now, but just it was a relentless performance, something that we've wanted to see all season, and we finally got it. So I'm going to briefly try and cover the goals here. On the 8th minute, Nadiri scored his first goal for the club. It was a long looping corner in from the left by Tavernier, right to the back post. Poor marking. Nadiri didn't have to move, and a nice cushioned header into the back of the net. Queens Park had the ball in the back of the net on the 16th minute. However, it was about 5 or 6 yards offside. Concerning no, because it was a quick break down the left from our mistake. Jigga giving the ball away in an attacking position. It was a cross into the deck and a tap in into the net. We're playing that silly high line again. In the 18th minute, Tavernier made it 2-0 though, knocking the ball about, trying to find space. Diamandi with a whipped ball into the back post from the left side. Tavernier leaps, headers it down. The ball drops down to him, and he gets his second shot off into the back of the net. 26th minute, we went 3-0 with, I thought was an OG, but I think Tavernier was getting credited with it. Tavernier with a corner from the left. The keeper tries to punch it away and it spins off his gloves and into the back of the net. So a crazy goal, that one there. 38th minute, those three words you love to hear, penalty to Rangers. There was a shot from us in the box. It was off the arm of the defender. It was down by his side, but it did block the shot as well. So no arguments from the Queen's players either. 39th minute, up steps Tavernier to score his hat-trick and makes it 4-0. Sends the keeper the wrong way and slots it into the left side. And if that wasn't it, we'll rounded out the first half going 5-0 with, again, I put down it as an OG, but I think it was got given to Chuck Huane, I'm not too sure, on the 43rd minute. It was a corner in from Tavernier on the left, into the near post. Chuck Huane headers, comes off the defender and into the back of the net. So absolutely outstanding at that point. I thought there was going to be a raft of changes at half time, but there was only one. That was Sterling off and Barami on, which makes sense considering Sterling's a bit injury prone and we've got a lot of games coming up. We didn't need to wait much longer because on the 49th minute we made it 6-0 with Nadiri scoring his second. Worked the ball in from the left side to the right. Ant-Man with a lovely dink cross to the back post and Nadiri with another header into the back of the net. We had to wait though until the 80th minute to go 7-0. It was a short corner in from the right, played about the right side. Lovely cross from Magoma into the corner of the box on the right side to the back post, and Miovski with a lovely glancing header into the bottom left corner. And to finally round out the game on the 90th minute, Chuck Huane made it 8-0. Lovely move from start to finish, knocking the ball about, going direct towards goal. Lovely one-touch play ending in Chuck Huane striking the ball into the net as he was falling. Brilliant, Dave. Really happy with that. A great way to send the fans home.
It really was. And Nadiri scoring two in his first full start for Rangers and playing two up front, Derek. Playing a 4-4-2 with two strikers, and we win 8-0. That's all I can say on that one. It's not often that we get to speak of a game with that amount of goals. I was getting some abuse from a Hearts fan that I know, basically saying, oh, you're getting carried away. It was only Queen's Park you were playing. And I had to remind him and ask him what the score was the last time we played Queen's Park in the Cup at Ibrox, and he never said anything. No. So delighted, Derek. That is a huge confidence boost for the players. Absolutely massive, especially the new players that look as if they've came in straight away. And, you know, a few of them look as if they've been playing for the team for years. They look very comfortable, and it's just a great sign of things to come for me. Delighted with that one.
Yes, hopefully. That meant the actual draw was that same night as well. And who do you think it? We've drawn Celtic at home in the quarter-final. So obviously the first thing that they thought of is, what allocation are they going to get now? They can apply for up to 20% of the stadium for the Scottish Cup games. It may get knocked back for safety reasons though, so we'll need to wait and see what that happens there. Obviously they can apply for that. It's up to the two clubs to barter it out. Ultimately will probably be the police decision at the end of the day. No doubt what will happen is they'll get told they're getting their usual allocation. They'll not get the full stand. They'll not get their 20%. They'll get what is the current allocation, which is about 2,500 or something like that, 5%. And no doubt we'll see all the conspiracy theories starting about that as well. However, the next games to come, we've got Wednesday the 11th of February, that's away against Motherwell in the Premiership, that's an 8 o'clock kickoff. Sunday the 15th of February, that's at home against Hearts in the Premiership, that's a 16:30 kickoff. Dave, I don't think we need to say that these two games will be season defining, I think. Motherwell sitting in 4th place, they're only a handful of points behind us and Celtic just now. Hearts obviously top of the league. these two games, we drop points in them. It's going to be difficult. It won't be impossible. We lose both of them, it's going to be, I think, game over. If we win both of them, though, Dave, I think that puts us in pole position.
Yep, it really does, Derek. First of all, the Motherwell game, I've said already on the pod, I think Motherwell have been fantastic this season. I really do. The turnaround in their fortunes has been incredible. The style of play the manager's got them. They are a top team in our league. That's going to be a difficult one. If we can go and get a victory at Fir Park, that is going to set us up brilliantly for Saturday. And let's be honest, Derek, we need a wee bit of revenge on Hearts after the two games that we've played them already this season, because we were hard done to the first time we played them at Ibrox. They played well for a part of the bit at Tynecastle, but we came back in the end and almost snatched it. But I think it's about time that we stepped up against Hearts, and it'll all be set up if we manage to get a victory at Fir Park on Wednesday night. It's going to be a big, big game, and we just have to hope that all the players step up, we really do.
Yep. Sunday the 22nd of February is the game after that, away against Livingston in the Premiership. That's a 1500 kick-off. Sunday the 1st of March at home against Celtic in the Premiership. That's a midday kick-off. I'm actually going to be away for that game, but I will get to see it, so we might or might not have a post-match out after that. And then the Scottish Cup quarter-final is either going to be Saturday or Sunday the 7th or 8th of March. BBC have got this one on the Saturday, but no time yet. That's a game I might not get to see as well, because I'm away picking up somebody from the airport at that time, so they're maybe getting told to wait as well. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
See what happens there as well. So yeah, big important games to play as ever.
Big important games, Derek. The two double header against Celtic. It's happened a couple of times in my lifetime, Derek, where this has happened, that we've played them both at Ibrox, and touch wood, it's been very favourable for us in the past. So here's hoping that history does repeat itself again with two victories against them in a row. So it's going to be massive. I'm actually looking forward to it. I'm not the doom merchant that I usually am. I'm actually feeling quite positive. Maybe that's a bad thing, I don't know, but aye, bring it on.
Yes. So we'll now go into the news. So a few bits and pieces to cover as always. Fraser Thornton has been appointed to the SPFL board for the remainder of the season. Thornton has been assuming the role of interim CEO since Patrick Stewart was sacked. It was our turn to have the CEO on the SPFL board, so Thornton has replaced Stewart in that capacity. So that's good there. Next thing here. Club 1872 have been consulting with their members and the club, and they are going to be using their money to fund 12 renovation projects in and around the stadium. So the front facade's going to get done, the trophy room, lights on the Walter Smith statue, the front entrance mosaic, and a few other key features around the stadium. Now, for a change, they're doing something that is positive, and it's something that even I can get behind. I think the plan is they're trying to restart Club 1872, short of a complete rebranding, which I don't know how it would go down in a legal point of view. They're going to struggle due to the toxicity of the brand Club 1872. We shall see though. Positive steps like this will need to happen, as well as better communication, different stewardship with zero egos as well. All have been the issue that have thwarted them previously, but that's a positive step, and I can get behind that one, Dave.
Definitely. And how many times have we spoke about them in the past? As you say, communication has always been lacking. A lot of the decisions that they've made and things they've done have been very puzzling. So here's hoping that this is, a new future for them, that all the fans can get behind with, some of the stuff that they're going to do. And going by what you've just said there, it certainly does look as if they're doing something positive.
Yep. So the last story I've got here is rather hilarious, because it's something that the Sun tried to make a big scandal piece out of, but I don't think it's got the traction they quite hoped for. And it was a big sex scandal at Rangers. It turns out that one of the physios appear to have been booking hotel rooms down south under the proviso of providing some physio for the players. Instead, some of the players have been using the rooms to have affairs. The way the Sun described it as that one wag found out and blew the lid off the whole thing. The physio in question has been suspended pending investigation. Here's the thing though. highly paid footballers will play away. It's not the first time, it won't be the last. Yes, there's absolutely an issue with company money being used for that type of thing, but the club will deal with that. But spare us this nonsense that is a big scandal. You know, as folk have said online, a team that shags together wins together.
Not literally, though, Derek.
We hope not, no.
But hey, doesn't make you a bad person as long as they're winning. That's the main thing.
I just thought that story was quite funny there.
Yeah.
So talking of funny stories, it's now time for Fesshole Corner.
Oh, excellent.
Do you like Dick? No, I don't like the Dick, but I like Dick Advocate, you know what I mean?
I went camping in 2014, didn't shit for 4 days. Driving home, we stopped at a tea room run by a little old lady. My bowels relaxed and I filled that poor woman's toilet to the brim. Leaving, she wished us well and said how she was exhausted after a busy day. Sorry, little old lady. I once ghosted a friend who I thought was a pedo over a misheard phrase. Before the term knocking it out the park became popular in the UK, I thought my mate was knocking one out in the park. Sorry, Matt. When I was in my early 20s, I walked my mate's drunken mum home from the pub. She invited me in and, as a thank you, she sucked me off. She's well into her 70s now, but I try not to be around her when she's had a few in case she tries for round two. You might get a gummy instead.
Oh my God. Oh, dearie dear. Oh.
Forgot to book forgot to book the wanking room at the hospital when I needed to produce a sperm sample after a vasectomy. Had to dig deep to produce a sample in the toilets with a guy coughing his guts up 2 cubicles down.
Oh, dearie dear.
My wife looked up our joint account and realised that I'd spent hundreds on an app. Concerned, she asked me if I was using escorts or prostitutes, or using a porn app. I didn't answer as I couldn't admit I had spent hundreds on Candy Crush. And to round it out here, the Google Street View car snapped my house last year while I was masturbating. I know because I lower one exterior shutter while I'm at it.
Oh, for God's sake.
And with that note, we will end the podcast. So, really a positive set of results that there. Obviously disappointing with the Hibs result. We are going to get these, so I think everybody needs to keep the head there. You know, I don't think Celtic are great shakes. Hearts are the unknown quantity just now. They have lasted so long. I am really surprised how long they've lasted in this. They normally fall away by this point, but there's still a long way to go. We can collapse. Everybody can collapse at the same time. Everybody can keep on winning. We'll just need to wait and see how it turns out. But as I said, the next 2 games are going to be pivotal in the way it turns out for us.
Yep, definitely, Derek. But I think we all need to think of where we were before Danny Rule came in and where we are now. And we really need to embrace this and we need to go for it. And I just think that it's everything just now is positive. And we now have a squad, I think, that can challenge all the way. So next 2 games are crucial. Looking forward to it.
Yes. So all that's left to say is thanks for listening and goodbye.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
And the stadium erupts in red, white and blue. You've never seen anything like it.
Let's go.